Hello, Ryan here, and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all of the news from the week just past. Be sure to subscribe if you like what you see, and let's get on with it. This week, Alpha 3.14 remains in the PTU. We take an early look at how loot will populate the verse, plus we check out all of the progress on fire propagation with a look dev at how it will spread throughout a ship. So just a quick update on Alpha 3.14 before we begin. It is still in the PTU for all backers, with the latest patch being 3.14.0S. Now, there are a few remaining known issues which could be classed as blockers, things like not being able to buy and sell commodities, infinite loading screens, and some more as well. So hopefully this won't last too long and they can release it to the live servers as soon as possible. Also, over the course of this weekend, they are running multiple playtests for Xenothreat version 2, so if you would like to take part and test it with them, be sure to jump in. So this week's Inside Star Citizen was taking a closer look at the upcoming loot system. Star Citizen is missing the rewarding loot that all MMOs have, providing players with rewards once they've battled their way through a gang of NPCs or explored a deep cave. So they are working on a new system called Loot Generation that was built upon the foundations of the Harvestable system, allowing designers to set up locations across the verse to be filled with dynamically generated loot. Now they use loot archetypes that generate a set of tags on the fly, allowing designers to match lootable items to the location, so the loot that we find will make sense to where you are finding it. Now this system is so granular and reactive to what's happening in the verse that they can set up crates with so much variety, even down to the colour of an armour piece that you may find. It even takes into consideration what Quanta are doing, meaning if a group of pirates were in a hovel close to Lawville, if Quanta then decided that Hurston Security cleared the pirates out of that hovel and turned it into a storage site, then all of the containers in that area that had pirate loot in them originally will now have Hurston equipment instead. This could also mean that if there was a lot of conflict going on in a certain location or on a particular planet and the population started leaving, the status and richness of that planet will lower, and the loot system can detect this and adjust the containers accordingly. For example, containers before the conflict could have been 50 to 60% full, but now they may only be 20 to 30% full, so adapting on the fly to where you are and what is going on around you. Right now they say they have a solid base for internal testing, and they are going to try marking up a few locations with some containers, mostly filled with weapons and armour, with plans to expand this to other items in the future. So this is pretty wonderful to see, and although it is not mentioned on the roadmap release viewer yet, the work on Loot Generation Tier 0 is coming to an end mid-August. So it does look like this first implementation of just weapons and armor could likely be in Alpha 3.15, which is set to release around the end of September. Hopefully we will hear confirmation on this soon, otherwise it'll be for the end of year patch. I will say that I would prefer it if the camera doesn't zoom out like this when you do open a crate and it just remains in the first person, but this could just be a testing thing, not necessarily how it will work for the player. Also, as much as looting is a very welcome addition that I am so happy they have working now, selling is where this will really shine. Allowing us to hoard and sell all the items we find will kind of be the holy grail for looting. Selling is in the works as well, but it's not completing until the end of November, beginning of December. So not long away, but definitely not in time for 3.15. Anyway, next up we have a visual effects specific sprint report, kicking off with these thruster dust effects that we've been seeing. These kick up dust or whatever is around on the planet based on the thruster's direction, the thruster's strength, the surface itself, and the force of the surrounding wind volumes. They say the devs are already thinking about how this can come in handy tactically for various events like the upcoming Jumptown 2, which we are yet to hear about, over bodies of water, and even soft body objects like those found around colonialism outposts. Lots of hints going on there. Coming up in a subsequent patch, the cherry blossom leaf piles found at Orison will be able to be kicked up by players running through them. Now this will also be utilised in other areas, including on vehicles in some way. Also for Leafs, in 3.14 they added rotation effects to GPU screen space colliding particles, utilising the velocity of an object to determine the amount and size of turn that applies to Leafs, creating a much more organic effect as they blow over the edges of surfaces. And you can see this now as you walk around Horizon. The elites will be floating around and bouncing off. There's a bit of a lighting graphical issue there, but it does look kind of nice. So for weapon impacts, they have updated the impact effects to now trail behind the ships that are moving, or take gravity into consideration, instead of sticking to the ship, which looks unnatural. A small detail, but it is these tiny details that do make a big difference. They are also exploring several different destruction mosaics for the space station orbiting above in the Theatres of War map for a cinematic ending. Of course, this is going to be seen in Theatres of War when we eventually get that, but my thinking is Port Olisar. Anyone else thinking the same? Lightning has had some improvements. Before it was very poor on performance and scaling. Now they have found a way to have much greater scaled lighting effects and have reduced the performance costs as well, meaning that more developers can use more of these lighting effects in more areas without crippling performance. Good news, they say, for the upcoming Pyro system and the revamp to the Arena Commander map Dying Star, which is currently underway. Also, I am pretty certain this will apply to planetary weather effects and other space anomalies when the time is right. Finally, we got to see a cinematic look dev at Fire Propagation. Utilizing all the tech, features and progress already created, we can see a basic electrical fire in a relatively high-tech environment as they explore the various propagation effects for how the fire can move and spread throughout this ship. This is still missing some visual factors like the shader work that'll make the fire feel more alive, but as you can see here, as the fire moves across the white surface, it drips onto the surface below, igniting it as it does, while the black glass-like surface on the roof is a little bit more resistant. And then after about half an hour, the fire has completely scorched the inside of the ship. Now, seeing this is just incredible. Not only will players need to be tackling these fires to stop the spread and eventual destruction of their ships or homesteads or wherever the fire breaks out, but it will also tie into the actor status system, creating noxious gases and heat affecting players as it grows, meaning that we will need to deal with the fire in a responsible and realistic manner, and I love it. Engineering will just be amazing. Anyway, that was Inside Star Citizen this week. A pretty decent episode. It's good to have it back. Let us move on. Also this week, the Galactopedia was updated with Stanton's planets and moons, and Jax McCleary being some of the new additions. The roadmap was updated as well, which I have covered in a separate video linked in the description below. Star Citizen Live this week was a game dev stream taking us through the process of how they create the ship commercials. And finally, the latest edition of Jump Point is now available for all RSI subscribers. So that brings us to the end of the show. If you do enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Also, I am able to do this thanks to my very generous patrons and channel members. If you appreciate what I do and would like to help make it even better from as little as $1 a month, all of the links are provided below.